Listening to comments from the Prime Minister yesterday, and he did mention that the economy needs to grow 4%, or about 3.75% to be precise, a year for the next 5 years to recover. How doable is that?
Well, good morning, Pete. Look, certainly full marks to the Prime Minister for optimism. I think that's kind of pie in the sky stuff. There's absolutely no way that is going to happen. I mean, the reality is the bulk of our economic growth for years has been population growth, of course, well over half. And of course, that's going to completely fall away. So the idea that we'll grow even faster than the amount we have done is I think farcical. And look, I mean, it's a good thing the Prime Minister's talking about reform, about tax reform, industrial reform, and so forth. And certainly, if we do manage to pull those things off, we will be able to increase our growth rate a little bit, but certainly not by a full percentage point.
Right. Yeah. I mean, and I suppose that's without other problems. There could be any great number of things that happen over the next 5 years. There could be another bad bushfire season. There could be even a second wave in a few months' time. I mean, how much worse could it get?
Well, yeah, look, that's right. And I think this is a problem with economic modelling too. I mean, the models that the Prime Minister is implicitly referring to, they always assume that the economy goes back to, to this wonderful thing called trend growth. And if you kind of miss trend for a few years, then you grow a bit faster than the trend for a few years after that. And of course, we know from the financial crisis that is certainly not true. Once economies take a hit, they take a permanent hit. And, we've taken a much, much larger hit this time than we did in the financial crisis, as of course has the whole world. And there's no way that we're going to get back to that pre-trend path. We have to make the best of what we have.
So do you think, Adam, that the worst might still be yet to come, particularly at around September when, those additional JobKeeper and JobSeeker payments start to wind up?
Well, look, let's hope that the worst is behind us. It's hard to say because we've never had an experience like this before where the supply and the demand side of the economy at the same time have been crushed. So we don't have any history to draw on. So the snap, but it seems so far, I think, and certainly anecdotally anyway, I think the snapback is not going to be as robust as we might have hoped in March. I mean, it just seems people are not spending anywhere near as much money on restaurants and cafes and discretionary items. So, personally, I expect, that part of the economy to shrink, pretty significantly over the next 6 to 12 months. And as for September, sure, there is going to be a problem there. This is the classic case of unintended consequences of government policy. We've introduced all of these subsidies, and they seemed, and probably were, the right thing to do at the time. But now we have to withdraw them at some point, and the Prime Minister's right. They do have to be withdrawn. We can't keep spending all this money indefinitely, as the Labor Party seems to want. So there will be a lot of layoffs come September, of course.
So how do you avoid that, Cliff? I mean, is there any way to avoid? I mean, bearing in mind there's some interesting stats. It was one of the banks that's quoted in the AFR this morning suggesting that 1 in 5 borrowers could be in strife. So huge mortgage problems for the banks come September.
Yes, look, that's right. It's not, it's not just the JobKeeper going away. Of course, it's suddenly the interest repayments are due too. Look, what I would do, I would start taking people off the JobKeeper kind of as soon as possible if they don't need it. And then, of course, those businesses won't be facing a cliff. I mean, the longer this is in place for businesses who are on the margin, who may or may not need it, they're going to get used to the subsidy. And, it's obviously a very comfortable subsidy. And then suddenly it's gone. So I think you need to phase it off, maybe take it away from sectors of the economy that, were not crushed so much. Maybe, law partners or barristers or surgeons I've been banging on for a long time about. I don't know why they're getting JobKeeper, but they are. But there are many more recipients than that who probably shouldn't be getting it.
So how would you achieve that? Would you need various businesses to prove that they've had a certain uptick in business? And then I guess how would you stop businesses from fudging those numbers?
Well, look, it is very hard to stop, especially small businesses, from kind of shifting their revenue around to make sure that they meet the criteria. And of course, that's perfectly rational. I'm not judging that. But look, I do think that the March test that was applied should be applied again, say in July or August or whenever, so that they have to prove that 30% fall from this time last year. And if it's not met, then it's taken off. But I take your point. There'll be a very powerful incentive to meet that test, and that's the unintended consequence of this enormous policy.